surprise. The surprising bit was for her to say, "Oh look, guys, there won't be any more tax rises. I'm done now."
I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, it's a very brave thing to say. Whether that's her intention now.
Starmer and his party members have never really established a strong connection with the public. The clearest example of this is when Rachel Reeves was publicly roasted and humiliated for her tax lie on live television. The party's detachment from reality is pushing people into a desperate situation. Follow the story of how Reeves endured this public disgrace, and don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest updates on Starmer's crazy decisions.
Well, I mean, she seemed to be saying any tax rise on business, I'm
Right.
assuming because of the audience there, that the national insurance rise is a one-off and she won't come back for more. Obviously, she's boxed herself into a corner because she can't raise VAT, income tax or employee national insurance, the big ones when you need money normally. So she's looking at other areas to go for, and that's where the problem sort of lies, that she's going for specific groups: farmers, elderly people, hospices, GPs, charities, yeah. And each one then claims to be a special case, and hence why we have the problem.
Reeves's performance left a terrible impression, both in her manner and her words. The constant changes in her image were no different from the actions of someone trying to escape, as if she herself were aware of the intense scrutiny from the British public. Along with a history of dishonesty, this paints the picture of a politician who is untrustworthy, even showing signs of deceiving the public, from manipulating her image to falsifying details in her personal records. Instead of facing up to her mistakes and taking responsibility, Reeves chose to blame her subordinates. This is not just a moral failing, but also a sign of a leader lacking in honour. This action is nothing short of a clear statement of shirking responsibility and poor leadership. Using others as shields for one's own mistakes is not only disappointing, but completely unacceptable in a high political role. History shows that neither Reeves nor Starmer deserve the trust of the electorate. They once deceived the public with what seemed like strong promises, but which turned out to be completely hollow. Pledges painted as symbols of reform and stability turned out to be nothing more than short-term political tricks, quickly exposed under the light of reality. The consequences of these lies have not only eroded public trust, but have also highlighted the incompetence and inconsistency in their leadership, reflecting the true nature of the Labour Party under the leadership of Reeves and Starmer.
She conned business by schmoozing them before the election, saying we are friends of business, when in fact all they've done is penalise business.
So where's the con?
I don't believe her
bit?
for 1 second that she's going to come back and not do more damage to business, because her paymasters, the beloved public sector, who let's hope they have actually been fixed.
The reality reveals that Rachel Reeves has yet to show any concrete actions that benefit domestic businesses. The current budget is completely lacking in standout policies that could demonstrate her commitment to the true economic development of the UK. In fact, her lofty promises about economic growth seem to be nothing more than empty slogans, devoid of backing from specific measures. The key question is, how can we expect sustainable economic growth when there are no efforts to encourage and facilitate business activity? This is an unacceptable paradox. Ignoring the crucial role of businesses in the economy while still proclaiming growth targets is like building up unrealistic illusions. Such a policy, lacking in practicality, not only wastes the public's time, but also highlights weakness and incompetence in leadership.
It's another lie from these mendacious, dangerous...
Businesses may still be taxed, but economic growth will supposedly come from the green technology that these people promise. They insist that they will create 650,000 jobs through these empty promises. However, the real issue is a serious accusation. She has lied to the public, and it's undeniable that she did so. So where exactly is this lie? What promise did she actually break? Or is it simply the commitments she made but never followed through on?
She said she wasn't going to raise taxes. She also said that she was going to cut university students' fees. I mean, there's a litany of things that she said along with Starmer. It was their collective policy, almost everything Starmer pledged on the famous interview with Andrew Neil, none of those things have happened. In fact, the reverse. And all she's done is they keep talking about growth. I mean, they live in some sort of fantasy land.
That's the future they're painting, because all they ever talk about is growth. Yes, the future may indeed come with growth, but to achieve that, there must be real incentives and motivations. However, in everything this government is doing, there is no motivation whatsoever. In fact, this government is going in the opposite direction. They continue to increase red tape, making businesses feel even more suffocated. They are making it harder for businesses, preventing them from growing and making profits, and certainly making the recruitment of staff much more difficult.
And I would say it's worse than a con, because it was they kicked sand in our eyes by saying we won't raise taxes on working people, but never being able to explain what a working person is.
I appreciate
that's what infuriates me.
Yes, I mean, in fact,
that's a very sneaky lie.
Well,
what they really mean when they talk about workers is simply another term for the old urban working class, outdated standards that later ministers could never agree with. In reality, this only makes life harder for workers. What they should have done, as they eventually did, was to clarify that these increased taxes would not be directly deducted from workers' wages. That would have been a simpler and clearer explanation in their statement. In fact, these taxes will be passed on as costs to employers. Yes, they will affect profits, but the issue is they will be hidden, concealed under a layer of cover. This is a clear scam. No, that's not true. Look at the national insurance issue when Laura Tropp was still Chancellor. She pointed this out. She said, "I understand that the Labour Party will not raise national insurance for workers," but she also warned about raising national insurance for employers. The Labour Party has never denied that, so no promise has been broken.
It's marvellous, the semantics they play. Look, they made a series of pledges which they have broken. The British...
Perhaps that is why the petition has now gathered nearly 2.5 million signatures. There's no debating this anymore. And no matter what Rachel Reeves says, it won't change anything. Her words have no value, and that will never change. Even if she apologises, the truth is she will continue acting this way because she can't help herself. It's as simple as that. People are signing the petition not just because they feel deceived, but because they are living in fear. This fear is real. This government is truly making people anxious. The war propaganda about Russia and Ukraine is unsettling. Will they send our children to fight in Ukraine? The fear grows when thinking about the plans this government is aggressively pushing forward, like forced land acquisitions. The sense of concern becomes even more pronounced when considering that they seem to have no regard for the country's agricultural landscape, which will be permanently altered. This makes the future seem frightening. That feeling is almost like the presence of a government with communist ideals, something this country has never experienced.
These people are mendacious, they are evil, and they are doing
Jeremy
this country in...
If we consider a form of socialist laborism, voters have been offered it twice and have rejected it twice, which comes as no surprise. But the problem is far more serious than that. Why? Because those in the Labour Party, are the ones who are fervently supporting giant corporations. Starmer is being swept up by these large corporations. Everything they do revolves around these massive organisations, which are draining the life out of small and medium-sized businesses. Giant companies like Amazon and technocratic conglomerates, as we saw in the Downing Street March last week, ahead of the election, where Bill Gates was present and BlackRock too. All of them were happily gathered together. Last week we saw BlackRock. Certainly, yes, that's right. And it is shameful that these billionaires sit around the table doing nothing for the small and medium-sized businesses in this country. This is what really worries people, Nigel. What really frightens people is how this government is cutting defence spending, making the UK vulnerable at a crucial time, yet they do nothing about it. This is unacceptable, especially when the next step is the Defence Strategy Review, to decide how money will be spent. They have slashed £5 million. As we fire missiles from Ukraine into Russia, it's technology we no longer need. War is changing. We really need modern data to address that issue. We've eliminated weaponised drones. They've replaced them with something else, and this is a strategic defence review to determine what needs to be replaced. The strategic defence review is happening right now. So we need to know, and clearly, we're just letting an old fraud do this. $2.50 for defence. We must figure out what is truly necessary for the Army, Navy and Air Force to fight in the future. But they know they want to spend 2.5% of GDP, but they don't specify when they will implement that. Because we don't have the Defence Strategy Review to decide how to spend the money, and what makes them feel satisfied is that he will make this country safe and protected, and in reality, he's quickly done the opposite. We could take time to discuss how Angela Rayner is doing her job. However, what she's really doing is pushing a bill about workers' rights, which was completely rejected by an independent policy committee, a body that evaluates the impact of government policies. Out of the 23 measures in the bill, 8 were found to be completely incompatible with the original goal. One of them was the absurd idea that if these measures were passed, unions would strike less rather than more. The committee pointed out that this is a completely mistaken view. Since the Labour Party became involved in this issue, the number of strikes has not decreased but actually increased. This is what they will ultimately have to face, and it's not just that. The issue is that they are still enjoying significant pay increases thanks to the free policies they have created. From day one, they have required the public to foot the bill. That's exactly what's happening. Jobs, maternity rights, and other Labour benefits. Of course, these changes will create significant challenges for employers and businesses as they will directly affect workers. Businesses will have to hire fewer people or become more cautious in their employee selection. They will also shift their costs onto keeping wages low instead of raising them, leading to long-term negative effects on the economy. The concept of equality in work, where every worker starts with equal benefits, as if they were all headmasters, is actually difficult to implement. This is a new bill, a new government, and 8 out of 25 measures have been sharply criticised by an independent body. This is truly concerning. That's why we must raise questions about the principles at play. Everything is changing at an alarming rate. We need to have a thorough discussion about the specifics. The reality is, this government is completely unable to handle practical issues. They only offer empty, vague promises. But when faced with reality, the policies they promote deliver no real results. And this has been clearly proven. With this bill on workers' rights, which is completely unfounded, it needs to be scrapped and rejected entirely. At a time of great upheaval, the Labour government is preparing to present the Finance Bill to the House of Commons. This is not just an ordinary legal document, but a tool that will help them enact budget changes that are poorly considered in the form of law. These changes are not only controversial, but could destroy the economy, stifle growth, diminish people's aspirations, and place an even greater burden on working families, the very group the Labour Party has deliberately concealed the truth from in its election campaign. The bill includes policies that, from the moment they were announced, shocked the public. Among them, the introduction of VAT on independent schools, increased taxes on the energy sector, entrepreneurs, investors and landlords stand out as a series of ill-considered moves. The application of VAT to private schools not only threatens to force thousands of students to leave their schools, even in the middle of the academic year, but also fails to guarantee that they will have alternative places to study. This is particularly serious for students with special educational needs, SEND, who require specialised educational services to meet their individual learning needs. While many Western countries, renowned for their advanced education systems, have rejected similar policies, the Labour Party is willing to make the UK the first country in Europe to take this risky path. But it doesn't stop there. The plan to increase taxes on energy profits continues to raise concerns. The oil and gas industry, an economic pillar supporting over 200,000 jobs, is facing the risk of significant negative impact. Experts have warned that this policy will not only lead to the loss of thousands of jobs, but will also result in the loss of billions of pounds in investment. Instead of creating a roadmap for affordable and stable energy development, the Labour Party is pouring money into impractical projects driven by Ed Miliband's ideological stance. As a result, the financial burden will fall directly on taxpayers, those who have not been consulted or given the chance to voice their objections. The plan to increase taxes on capital gains is also a severe blow to economic development. This policy not only discourages investors, but also sends a cold message to entrepreneurs that their efforts and dedication are not valued. This is a dangerous move that could stifle entrepreneurial ambition and turn business dreams into financial burdens that are hard to overcome. In light of this, the Conservative Party cannot remain passive. An amendment has been proposed to strongly oppose this bill, as any budget that causes the Office for Budget Responsibility to issue warnings about the risks of increasing inflation, reducing wages, and lowering living standards cannot be accepted. This is not a politically confrontational opposition, but a critical warning against policies that could push the country toward a future of instability. However, the Labour Party has mobilised its MPs to dismiss this amendment, despite the clear consequences they are causing. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, attempted to calm the business community with a commitment to end the tax hike campaign.